A lot of people consider the early to mid 2000s to be the golden age of Star Wars video games, and I'm kind of inclined to agree. I do like a lot of the modern games, but something about this time and exploring so much of the prequel world lent itself to interesting games. One I never played growing up, however, was Star Wars Bounty Hunter, a third-person action shooter from Lucasarts. This game has a lot of interesting ideas that are executed to varying levels of success that I'll get into as we go along, but I want to say right out the gate that the production value on this game is really strong. You can tell a lot of thought went into the art direction and level design. There were also some really nice looking cutscenes for the time where Industrial Light and Magic collaborated with Lucasarts, and Tamara Morrison reprises his role as Jango Fett, giving it that extra bit of authenticity.
Dead or alive, Miko?
Right, I guess I should mention this is the game you play as Jango Fett, the coolest bounty hunter in the whole galaxy's dad. But hey, it's still sweet. I'm not complaining. Also, as a disclaimer, I know the new release of this game just came out, but I'm playing the original PS2 version of the game for this video. There may be some quality of life improvements or modernizations in the new version, but that cost $20 and this version was free on PS Plus. Also, LucasArts used to do this fun thing where the logo would have some special animation for the game. So what is the story, you ask? Well, it's real simple. Your classic two birds with one stone situation. Darth Sidious is annoyed at a crime syndicate called the Bando Gora that's being led by a rogue Jedi, and also is looking for a specimen to be the basis for their clone army. Count Dooku is confident he can do both at the same time by putting out a bounty on the leader of the Bando Gora. Whoever is badass enough to take down the leader will also probably be tough enough to have a bunch of clones made after them. We then cut to Outlaw Station where we're introduced to our main man Jango. He's trying to capture this guy Miko who's cheating at the monster fighting games against Jango's Tordarian friend Rosada. We lose the jetpack and get thrown into gameplay with a fight against this beastie called a Borek. Right away I can tell this game is going to really help with my early onset carpal tunnel. To shoot Jango's main dual pistols you have to mash the square button. There is no way to remap this to triggers, and if you hold the square button the fire rate drops to an unusable level. Great. I tell my thumbs to suck it up and get going. There's a very useful lock-on mechanic, however, considering the camera movement and aiming otherwise is pretty abysmal. But this first fight is easy and we get a sense of how Jango moves around. It's pretty fun. After this kill, we're introduced to some other simple mechanics like cutting holes through these grates and some proto-Uncharted style ledge hanging. Once we drop down into the first main hallway of the level, the main gimmick of the game comes out. This is the bounty hunting mechanic where you can scan and mark optional bounty targets with your visor. This will show the value of capturing them dead or alive, plus some fun info about what crime they committed. I really like this idea a lot in theory, and it's very on theme for this game. However, the actual execution of the idea is very questionable. First of all, you can't move while you're scanning, which would be okay if you could scan from secret vantage points on the map, which sometimes you can, but more often than not, a bounty target will be charging at you in a group of 8 other guys, and you'll get lit up if you take the time to go through the multi-step process of scanning and marking. Additionally, most of the targets are worth more if they're captured alive. For this, you have to wrap them up in your whipcord, one of Jango's other weapons that are mostly useless, and then claim the bounty once they're tied up. The problem with this is that Jango will auto-lock onto all the enemies in the room, and sometimes you really need to thin the herd before you can even think about using the whipcord. I can't count the number of times I accidentally killed a bounty while just trying to clear out some enemies. And all of that is just to get credits, which count for almost nothing other than your high score and unlocking some bonus content, which is fun, but I think if they really wanted to make the player care about bounties, there needed to be some things you could purchase in-game, like upgrades or new weapons. The game also has some pretty punishing respawns with almost 0 in-level checkpoints. If you run out of lives, you start the whole 20-plus minute level over again. So when I was down to 1 or 2 lives, getting bounties just became completely obsolete, knowing that I could be sent all the way back to the beginning of the level if I got killed while trying to scan someone. As we move through Outland Station, I'm starting to appreciate this level design a lot. These levels were a collaboration between director John Knowles, who had been an artist on several previous Star Wars games, as well as director for Shadow of the Empire, Michael Lint, and David Weir, a couple of level designers who also had previous Star Wars experience. Michael Licht came from an architectural background, and it really shows. These levels sort of fold in on themselves in a really satisfying way and feel more like real places than some nonsensical video game level that doesn't actually make sense architecturally. It was kind of reminding me of the first Half-Life game, to be honest. I mean, certainly not as well executed as that, but I appreciate the effort that was put into making these environments feel like real Star Wars places. So the second level, we have to follow one of Miko's lackeys through Merchant Row. I like how ruthless Jango Fett is portrayed here. He really doesn't give a single F about civilians or just using people for his goals. This is a following type mission, really the only one that functions like this in the game. This level also introduces us to the amount of verticality that's going to be pretty common in this game. They do a pretty good job of making these feel like busy Star Wars streets. About halfway through this mission, Miko flies away in a speeder and we get our jetpack back. Now we're really talking. The jetpack is pretty fun to use and controls well once you get the hang of it. We chase Miko through the streets and the sewers until we get to the final mission of Chapter 1, Docking Bays. This was the first level I struggled with and got stuck on for a little bit. There's nothing scarier than falling down a pit in this game because each time is one less chance to get through the level without starting it all over. I love the Toy Story 2 style conveyor belt stuff though, something that always scratched my brain itch a lot as a kid. At the end of the level we have our first actual boss fight, I guess, against Miko's ship, the Longshot. It's pretty easy if you stay on the conveyor belt and keep moving. We capture his ass and that's the end of the opening chapter.
Oh, thank you, Jango. You're the best.
Here we're briefly introduced to Jango's rival Mandalorian bounty hunter, Montross. This guy is suitably more evil presenting than Jango, but never manages to become more than like just that, really, a slightly meaner version of Jango. I do love the voice actor though. This is Clancy Brown voicing Montross, who's in a million things, but I know him best from Starship Troopers and also the voice of Baron Praxis in the Jak and Daxter games.
You're worth enough, dead.
Rosada gives Jango his money for Miko as well as a message from Tyrannus. He is officially offered 5 million Republic credits if he can take down Kamari Vasa. Rosada warns him that the Bando Gora is too dangerous to go after, but he's determined. I like the relationship these two have. It's a bit distant, but you can tell these people who usually don't let emotions dictate their life actually care about each other. Roz is voiced by the late Lucille Bliss, who passed away in 2012. She's probably most known for voicing Smurfette in fucking 237 episodes of the Smurfs, but she really does a solid job here. The Bando Gora are involved with the Death Stick trade, so Jango is headed off to Coruscant to go after some small-time Death Stick dealer to prod out his connections. Looks like Montross got the message from Tyrannus too. Oh no. You might be wondering, hey, where's the Slave One? Well, it's because right now Jango is flying the Jaster's Legacy, which belonged to his old Mandalorian mentor, Jaster Muriel. These guys, Muriel, Montross, and Kamari Vos, all appear in the Jango Fett tie-in comic called Open Season. One issue of this is included as a bonus, but I read the whole miniseries for this. It's only 4 issues, but it provides some interesting insight into Jango's past, which I was always curious about, even if this stuff isn't canon anymore. Pretty much Montross and Jango were rivals when they were younger, and Jaster Muriel was Jango's mentor. Montross, through like reckless decision making, ended up getting Muriel killed, so him and Jango, hate each other because of that. This first mission at Coruscant is really cool from a visual standpoint. It feels like the nice neon underbelly of scummy Coruscant. This level is also pretty open-ended and maze-like, folding on top of itself and contributing to that authentic city feeling. We chase this Jervis Gloom, the Death Stick dealer guy, through the streets and into a casino where he reveals that he works for a guy named Groff Hogg who uses a nerf packing plant as a front to move some special kind of Death Stick. Although the storytelling is kind of repetitive, I actually really like the feeling this gives of starting with a low-life, low-level guy and having to work your way up through the system to get to bigger and bigger targets with bigger connections. It really makes sense as to what Jango's actual strategy would be to find info on Kamari Vos, and it gives you that feeling of like, yeah, this is probably the kind of stuff bounty hunters would be doing in Star Wars. Like villainous detective work. The packing plant is a fine enough level, if not somewhat unremarkable, except for this part here where you go inside and have to traverse these floating platforms. Like I mentioned before, the stress of dying from falling is just magnified because it's just taking away chances that you have to complete the level without having to start the whole thing over again. Scary stuff. After climbing through the facility, we come face to face with Montross. He's frozen Hogg in carbonite, and as a cool detail, this kills him, as carbonite technology that would still keep people alive was developed in Empire Strikes Back, so just a cool continuity pull. After fighting Montross, he runs away, and we have to turn to other sources. Jango finds that a corrupt politician, Senator Trell of Ryloth, has been funding the operation, so we go after him in his apartments. This is what I'm talking about right here, with the bounty hunting theme being awesome. This is exactly what I'd want from a bounty hunter game. Sneaking into a Coruscant high-rise to question a corrupt politician, it's just perfect. This next level is fun too, lots and lots of verticality, and it's easy to fall and die, so I definitely restarted a few times, but I really enjoyed the geography and architecture of this level's design, even if I did get lost in its similar looking hallways a few times. This one has some pretty challenging sections where you kind of have to keep moving and can't hope to kill everyone in a single room, and like the trickiest platforming of the whole game right here. It became easy after I figured out the process, but it's still stressful because one pixel off and you're dead. I guess here would be a good time to talk about the other weapons in the game too. There are a sniper and rocket launcher that you get later, so we'll talk about those later, but right now we have the pistols, a grenade, flamethrower, fist, the whipcord, and then sometimes a repeating rifle or a pulse cannon thing that you can pick up off the ground. These are almost all useless. The fist's just absolutely useless. There is never ever a point to use these in the entire game that I found at least. Even in a later level where your weapons are taken for a bit, it's still better to just run away from enemies than try and punch them. The flamethrower can be really good towards the end game when you'll have a mass of dudes swarming you, but it's pretty useless right now, if not just kind of fun to watch guys run around on fire. The repeating rifle is nice, but really only because it gives your thumb a rest since you can hold down square for rapid fire. It works a tiny bit better at taking out enemies quickly than the pistols, but only a little bit. And the whipcord is only useful for bounties, not in any kind of combat situation, except for maybe some boss fights. However, the grenade sucks so much. It bounces like crazy and the throwing animation is cancelled if you get hit, so good luck getting this to go where you want during combat. So, none of these are literally totally useless, but there should have been much better implementing of them throughout the game, with more situations that called for them. The rockets and snipers are a little more useful, thankfully. Anyway, back on Coruscant, we reach the Senator's penthouse. He just points you to a Dug named Sebulta on Malastare, who is their death stick supplier. See what I'm saying? Each level is just kind of finding a guy to go up to the next one. It makes these cutscenes repetitive, but it's cool. We're moving up through the underworld to more and more powerful targets. Jango Fett just executes the Senator too. Kind of a funny badass move with the whole let me go as you wish type of trope.
Release him! Now!
As you wish.
No, wait! Blast him!
But did he have to kill him here? I guess he's just another piece of scum in Jango's eyes. So a police gunship shows up that we have to fight before getting off Coruscant. Not much to say here. So far these boss fights are underwhelming. You just have to run around and shoot. There's nothing else to it. Roz tells us that Sebulta is looking for a guy named Bendix Fust, who's currently serving time on the Uvo 4 prison, so we plan to break him out in hopes of bringing him to Sebulta as a gift. Roz gives us some nice prophetic lines here too. Maybe she's who convinced Jango that having someone to look after was something he was interested in.
Why don't you meet a nice girl, settle down, have a kid? You won't live forever, you know. Not in this business.
Not in this lifetime, Roz.
Jango sneaks into this asteroid prison behind a cargo ship. This is where we first acquire the rocket launcher weapon, which can be pretty handy in a few rare situations to take out a group of guys. Again, I know I already made this point, but breaking in and out of a super prison on an asteroid, just perfect bounty hunting behavior. I wish there was a little bit better of a way to know if you were going to be spotted or not, though. It seems like up on this ridge here, I should be able to snipe at least a couple of guys unseen, but no, they notice me before I even fire anything off. Okay, the series of levels on Uvo 4 is tough. At least it was for me. The breaking in one isn't so bad. It had some fun platforming and cool level design. Once we get to the center of the prison, we meet this nice guy, Smoody. He takes us down to the cell block level that Fust is on, and we find his cell. But he was taken by a girl? The game seems to think this is pretty funny.
Must have started a riot to cover her escape.
Her escape? Ha, you're joking. Beaten at your own game by a woman. Ha, that's priceless.
It's Zam Wesell, who I thought was pronounced Wessel my whole life until I played this. Look at these dudes T-posing for the cutscene also. Anyway, Zam starts a full-on prison break, and this is the part of the level that was really hard. You're just swarmed by inmates and guards alike, and there's also some really nail-biting platforming combined with guys firing rockets at you, so my stress levels were high, and I got pretty frustrated with the amount of times I had to try this one. This level is long, and it goes on and on. Every time I restarted, I would forget just how many rooms and sections there were in this one. But finally, we make it back to our ship and see Zam trying to hijack it. We help her fight off the remaining guards and agree not to kill each other, but then, whoa, look, the fire spray shoots Jango's ship. Gotta go to the hangar and steal one. We're not done with this damn asteroid yet. It's also worth mentioning that Liana Walsman, who played Zam in the movie, is doing the voice here. Just, another nice little authenticity touch.
I stowed aboard a supply ship. Until you showed up, that was my plan for getting out.
Okay, this level is kind of shitty. I like this vertical tower room we have to keep returning to, but every offshoot we go to turn one of the generators off is exactly the same. Also, the angles and frequency these guys can rocket launch you from can be super relentless. There seem to be some more opportunities here where they want you to use the grenade, but the bounce on that thing makes it so difficult. Well, after some moderate struggling, we make it to the hangar, fight this thing, and steal one of the fire sprays, destroying all the others, leaving this to be the one. The only one. Looks like Zam and Jango are working together now. Off to Malastare, a freaking jungle hellhole. So Zam is going to go charm Sebulto and bring in the prisoner while we sneak in from the other side. I don't really get this plan other than the need for a video game level, but oh well. Here is where we get the sniper. It took me way too long to realize you could zoom in with this thing by pushing the right stick forward, so there was a long time where I thought that this was useless because of how much it obscures your vision. Malastare is full of bodyguards and Nexus. There are a lot of snipers here too. It's a pretty fun level making it through the swamp, even if the Nexus are a little bullshit. We have to do a sniping bit to protect Zam, which is a nice change of pace. Then we scale the cliffside to sneak into Sebulto's lair. Look, these dogs are Sebulba fans. My thumbs are starting to hurt. Oh well, let's press on. Pretty challenging Death Stick factory level, but we get to actually fight Bando Gora now. Looks like the Bando Gora are using the Hutts as a middleman for the Death Stick operation, so it's off to Tatooine. We get some Montross backstory explained to us and escape, but yeah, Montross is still here and he's going to follow us. So we figure out that Jabba and Gardulla are feuding and only one of them would be working with the Bando Gora. The bounty hunters split up, with Jango going after Jabba and Zam trying to find Gardulla's stronghold. We bring Jabba a gift of a bounty for him to tell us that it's Gardulla who's working with the Bando Gora. Man, these levels aren't like the most well designed, but Tatooine looks awesome. The pod race hangar is a nice touch. However, this level out in the wastes was such a nightmare. The Tusken Raiders and Hutt crew, and it just goes on, and so many platforming sections where I die. Oh man, I like this game, but I'm getting to the point where I want it to end. The levels are just like 25% longer than they should be. Zam got captured by Gardulla, and Jango doesn't want to let her out because of sounding an alarm, so she yells, and now we're both captured and to be fed to the Crate Dragon. This was the part I'm talking about where you get your weapons taken away, but it's better to just run than try and fight. This level is also freaking hard. So many rooms, so many guys with repeating blasters and rockets. We finally get back to the Crate Dragon with our weapons and feed Gardulla herself to it, which is pretty gnarly. Then we take it out with rockets. We leave Zam behind and realize that Montross has tortured our friend Roz for information. This makes us angry. Okay, real home stretch now. Final chapter. Here we are on Kolma, the planet of the Bando Gora. What is there to even say about these levels? You get swarmed by zombies of Bando Gora that aren't too bad if you use the flamethrower. It's nice for another weapon to actually get some use, but it's kind of late for something that you've had since level 1. What do you expect? I mean, we get through the base, fight Montross and kill him finally, get captured by Vosa, Zam frees us, and then we go through some more level. Find Vosa and defeat her. The boss fight is so easy. I just have to fly around in circles and keep shooting. I mean, is this really how easy it is for Jango Fett to take out a Jedi? Pretty easy final levels which don't feel as well designed as the previous one. A little haphazard seeming to me, but I don't care. I'm ready to be done with this game. Oh shit, Dooku's here. He reveals that Vosa was his old apprentice, and he did this whole thing to see who would be a good candidate for a clone army. Jango agrees as long as he can make Boba, and he and Zam walk out of there much richer. And that's it. Pretty solid stuff overall, but it sort of overstays its welcome, I guess. The brutal checkpoint system made this take almost twice as long as it needed to, but overall I had fun. I like the vibes. Jango is cool and his character is nice. Okay, let's look at the extras, some trading cards, the comics, and whoa, some bloopers. These are sort of funny. I definitely like the idea. Alright, in conclusion, this is a pretty cool game, product of its time, little dated. I honestly like the edginess of it. It's a little rough around the edges, a little annoying at some times, but it's fun. It's badass. Play it.